You're listening to The Disabled Employee, a lived experience podcast where young disabled people talk about their experiences with the workforce. Okay, we're back for the last episode of The Disabled Employee. Last episode, we talked a lot about our emotional and personal experiences with, going out of work, dealing with a long hiatus from work, and how to cope with all of these things. This time, we're going to focus a little more on the practical side of things, doing what you can to stay in the workforce, how to stay afloat, financially, how society at large could make this whole process a little bit easier. My name is Dureece. I'm 26 years old. I live with a dissociative disorder, and I am a member of CIDR's most recent youth council.
Hi, I'm Tan. I'm 21. I'm also part of CIDR's most recent youth council, and I'm fully blind, so no light perception at all. And I was born partially blind and then lost my vision and became fully blind when I was quite young.
And I'm Britt. I'm 23. I have ulnar muscular dystrophy, which is quite a rare form of muscular dystrophy, causes low muscle tone and scoliosis, and I'm fully wheelchair bound. And I also live with severe ADHD that was recently diagnosed.
God damn, this is nostalgic. I was thinking, I felt like I was listening to episode 1 again.
Bringing it back. Oh, it's been fun.
All right, so the other end of the process.
Yeah, we're here. We've got a job.
Yeah.
And then
I guess it's gone.
It's gone now. It's ending, or it's about to end. Feels bad, man.
It's funny. It's like we're describing in real time. Okay, so what happens when you have to leave a job?
I wonder. Oh, that's so interesting. I would have no idea.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. We're oh geez, we're method acting.
Yes.
That's okay, so I'll put my serious pants on.
Not the serious pants.
The serious.
I think we're all a bit sad, folks, so we're going out with humor today.
This is grief disguised with laughter. So when you have to transition out of work, again, whether it's willingly, because you don't want to be there anymore, or you have to leave because of a contract ending or something, for those of us in that position right now, what are we planning to do? What the heck is our plan? And how does your disability affect these plans?
Yeah, so I guess it's important to note that as this podcast is happening, our contracts for the youth council have just ended. So we're actually all in this boat right now, hanging out together in the water. It feels familiar because it's basically what I said we would need to do in episode 1. Taking time for myself to understand what type of career path and jobs and expertise I want to kind of move forward with my future jobs that I might take on. I've been updating my resume and I've been job searching, applying, putting my name out there. I actually have a Google Doc. I have a bunch of Google Docs, an entire job search folder on my drive. And one of them is just job requirements. And I've updated that. It's stuff like, for example, I know that I need to be near a train station in terms of work, or near a public transport destination because I need to be able to travel there independently. It's stuff like I need to be more stationary, so I can't have a lot of things moving around. And if I do need to move around in the environment that I'm in, things need to be in the same spot or at least close to where they usually are. Right. I can't have a constantly changing environment unless I'm expecting or told that that's going to be the situation.
Right. Have fun with bus replacements on your computer.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's actually it's a significant part of my planning, but yeah, so entering back into this whole job searching process, because I do want to stay in the job market. And so entering into the search, the first thing I actually did was sitting down with a support worker of mine who's actually knows a lot of my access needs. And so there's one, someone who knows me really well, but also 2, someone who can sit there and encourage me and almost be a buddy double for me to get my work done. And sitting down with her and basically going through all of these different access needs, putting it all into one document so that as I set out, or I guess as I am currently setting out on my job search, I have that document ready to constantly refer back to. So every time I read a job description, I actually look up the location of the job. I look at the job description and I mark down, what I think might be an issue, what might not be an issue, what might need to be discussed in the interview and navigated. So that's kind of how I'm doing things regarding my disability.
That's really cool, Tom. I'm doing similar. I have mentioned that I've got a permanent part-time position. Mostly people would think, oh, that's okay, she'll be all right because she still has a job. But I've also had, since starting that position and since being with Cider for this contract, also got a lot more financial responsibilities. Also, at the moment, I'm taking time to sit down and budget about what I can and can't afford and whether I need to do that, looking to replace that with the income each fortnight that Cider was providing me with the youth council, and whether I need to start looking for a second job again. I've never actually used LinkedIn, so I've created a LinkedIn profile. So I'm looking on there, seeing what kind of little casual positions are available. My disability affects my searching plans a little bit because I need something remote. I prefer to work from home if I can due to my fatigue levels. I don't think I would be able to sustain 12 hours in the office each week and then another however many hours in a different office.
Mm.
So I'd prefer to do what I was doing with Cider and stay at home.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, as for myself, I'm kind of like, well, the job that we've just sort of wrapped up at Cider is the first like paid employment I've had in years, since like before COVID, I think. Aside from like a few focus groups and market research things. And before I started working at Cider, I'd given up on working. I was really lucky to have found a paid lived experience job where, my disability wasn't a barrier to getting the job. It was like a requirement. And, my first thought was, well, moving back into work, should I look for another lived experience job? The issues that come up with that are a lot of lived experience jobs, like they're a consultation thing. They're often, grant based. They're usually only for like 1 year, like one financial year. And it's like, well, sure, in terms of financial stability, maybe I could sort of extend my wallet's lifespan for a little bit and still afford rent. But I'd rather not have to just swing from job to job if I can. I would like to stay in something for more than a year. So I'm kind of like, I'm looking at stuff like that as a sort of fallback. But I also don't want to be there because I'm just like, oh, I'm just here for money. Like I don't actually care about the consultation process. I'd rather that went to someone who like is really, really into it. Not that I wouldn't care about what I'm doing. It's just I don't want to end up getting like desperate and then
How
CG.
dare you want job security, Dureece?
I mean, because like I don't want to. I don't know. It's like
Yeah, you don't want to walk into a situation being like, I'm so desperate for money that I'm going to apply for a lived experience job. Like you should just also want to input your lived experience in a way that
yeah,
is valuable.
yeah.
I
Like
understand that.
financial pragmatism is totally fine, but it's like that shouldn't be the only reason why I'm there. If you asked me 1 year ago how I felt about leaving a job, I would have said I'm completely terrified. Because the thing is, I'd pretty much given up on my like employability. I was like, I have one of those, weird, quirky disabilities where you just can't do anything. I'm just useless. I got really down about myself. Is there any kind of work I can't like, can I do anything? And the time I spent volunteering in the mental health space before Cider sort of showed me, oh wait, no, this I've still got a few tricks up my sleeve. There's still a few cool little things I can do. Like even in spite of my condition that makes everyday life difficult for me, I can still do some pretty cool stuff. And then through
Mm.
Cider, with all the opportunities I've had, I got to make a podcast as part of my
You
job. I got
did?
to,
Wait, when was that?
yeah, well, link in
What?
description. Um, but yeah, I got to make a podcast. I got to help facilitate, workshops, and I got to, write articles. I got to do research. I got to do all these different things where I got to apply myself. And I was like, this isn't like the lived experience part of me that's doing this so well. This is just me.
It's just you.
Like,
Yeah.
this is just my skills. And I was like, what the hell? Because I had scarcely been given an opportunity to sort of iron out the kinks and work out how to harness those abilities. And I think that's a really tragic thing about the mainstream workforce is a lot of entry-level jobs that young Gen Z people are going to get, they're not going to get the chance to flourish and see all the amazing things they can do. So there's still a lot of jobs I can't do that I know I can't do with my limitations, and I've made
Mhm.
peace with that because I've discovered other avenues. So I want to look at maybe not even necessarily disability or advocacy related stuff, although I still am interested in that. But maybe I'll get into something related to podcasting or, a small, blog writing or journalism job, or, I'll look at the assortment of things I've done through Cider and be like, can I monetize any of that? So, second question, the whole process of falling out of work and being in limbo between jobs is never easy, but when you're disabled, it can be a lot worse. What do we think society as a whole could do to make this process easier? This process of, you know, not being able to keep a job, falling out of work, or not being able to get back into the job market. And when I say society, I mean government, employers, our culture as a people. What could we be doing to make this not as bad as it could be?
Definitely making the DSP better. When my partner actually got a job, he's currently my carer under Centrelink. He gets carer's pension and the carer's allowance. But when he was working, I lost my pension completely because he earned too much. But the
Because
pension,
your carer work too much is
yeah,
absurd.
yeah. So I lost my pension, then I could, and because my rent gets deducted out of my pension, I paid enough for my rent, but I was living off $100 a fortnight.
That's awful.
Yeah, so I felt horrid, but when I was actually relieved that my partner lost his job because I had my financial independence back. Because even though my partner's amazing, I love him dearly and he'd never do anything to hurt me. And he covered everything for us while he was earning that income. But I was always terrified because I had no financial security.
It's
I had,
horrible that your DSP gets affected by what other people do. Not
yeah,
even because obviously there's a certain level where it's like, okay, if it's income tested, it's means tested for
yeah,
you. But then you have your carer and your informal supports, and that shouldn't play a part in how you live your financial stability, like your financial freedoms.
it's because
That's
he's my partner and my
yeah.
carer.
And it's almost
So,
like you're still independent people, which is just somehow
yeah,
a concept that is, for some inexplicable reason, is overlooked.
I
if he
think
was
there's
if he was just my roommate and my carer, I still would have received my full DSP.
Yeah.
But because he's my partner and it's our combined income, I lost it.
I think it's really important to remember, and that this never gets considered when these rules are made. Well, the thing is, for a lot of disabled people, or at least this has been my experience, living with a disability, especially in the big city, can be extremely isolating. Maybe you don't know many other people that you feel like you can trust. Maybe you don't
Hmm.
want some unknown quantity being your carer, like especially if it's someone who already knows, all your quirks and all your needs, and you're already really comfortable with them. It's like it would be weird to not get someone else to function as my carer.
I mean, my partner's my carer because he literally, I don't have a lot of formal supports. And he does my daily routine care. So he can't really
Hmm.
work because of the amount of stuff he does for me every day and needs to be available for me
Right.
more than I can, like most people can provide. If he
It
was abusive, um,
yeah.
that's complete financial control.
Mm.
And
Precisely. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, he might be amazing and everything, and you might be lucky that he's really nice and everything. The next person might not be so lucky.
Exactly.
exactly.
And
And
you
that's
need
what
to be able
terrifies
to
me.
maintain that financial independence or at least have the choice to.
So if I was and like if I had my job while that at that point, I would have been okay and I would have had that feeling of still autonomy and financial independence and not like I had to go and ask my boyfriend if I could go buy something. Um
Ah, man, I'm shaking my fists. I am. And you
um
shouldn't have to. I mean, you're your own person. You are
yeah.
a unique individual with your own circumstances, and your own autonomy should be put above everything else at the end of the day, especially as a person with a disability who, because of all of these societal constraints, is limited in that
Mhm.
way.
So I think making that less restrictive, making it more accessible, making it better for people in those circumstances. But also just the DSP is not enough to live off in this crisis, like this state of
Sure.
living crisis.
I mean, I feel like there's so many things that can be implemented in order to make this transition a bit easier, right? I mean, one, we've already discussed this previously, so I won't touch on it too much, but the disability employment services that are provided, I mean, everyone that I know who's used them has had a terrible time, and it needs to have a complete restructuring to ensure that it's actually taking into account the needs of disabled people and what they want in their employment and what skills they have, and empowering them to actually get jobs that they want in a way that they want. And I don't see that right now in disability employment services, and assistance programs. I really don't. And I think that's a key thing that should be considered and should be put in place. Or even just like even if there's a program which is more focused on a transition, like a transitional program for disabled people moving out of work, and having that kind of like safety net or safety program to enter into, even a bonding program with other um people with disability who might be in the same boat who are also transitioning out of work. That might be something that really would alleviate that sort of isolation that you feel when you step out of a job and you feel quite alone, and that lack of purpose that we've discussed previously as well. Having someone to share that with, having a group to share that with might be incredibly beneficial. I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it sort of links back to what you were saying about issues with disability employment services. And I'd say, sort of job service providers in general, um, a big problem with like that's kind of the role those people are meant to fill. They're meant to mentor you and sort of guide you through that. They are meant to be that resource. But as we all know,
True.
that is
That's
scarcely what they end up being
Yeah, I
because
mean,
most
Isn't
of these
school
people
though?
it's like a fake job, Ben. Like a lot of the people in there, they sort of you come in because you like if you're on job seeker, you've got to go to those meetings once every like I think like two
Fortnite.
weeks or
Yeah.
four, yeah, something like that. And you got to go to these meetings, and they're meant to like help motivate you and encourage you and help you find what your skills are. And oh, here's where you can apply your skills. And oh, I found this job that
What are the
seems like a good match
accommodations
for
that
you.
you need? And,
Yeah.
like,
This is
oh,
what they're meant to do for
yeah.
disabled and non-disabled people. This is what they're meant to do. They don't do that. They'll give you like a printout from 20 years ago. They'll tick your name off. They'll scold you for a little bit for not having a job yet, and then they send you on their way. And then they get paid regardless. That's how they get their funding is by having people come in through that revolving door.
I'm
Oh,
asking for like a roadmap, but I guess you're right. Like that is essentially what the role of these disability employment services or
yeah.
employment assistance programs, that's what they're meant to do, but they
Yeah, so
don't.
yeah, it's just that that system is in place and it's not working. And a big
Yeah.
part of that is there's no oversight. Like they set up all these job service providers for disabled and non-disabled people, and then they kind of just let them go. There's no one's checking to see if they're actually doing the right thing. No one's like checking in with the participants. Well, no one's checking in with them, be like, hey, were you treated like a human being?
There's no support group, there's no like forum, there's nothing that, in any of these assistance programs that I found.
So, and again, this sort of comes down to the thing of like the resource is there, it's not being maintained. It's
Mm.
not being like there is no oversight. I think, I only engaged with two disability uh employment providers.
I engaged
Um,
with one, and I know a lot of people who have engaged
yeah.
that I've spoken with personally, because I went to a lot of my friends and I was like, "Did you have this experience too?" And they were like, "Yep,
I
yes, we
the
did."
first one that I can't I just picked the first one from Google. They were in Melbourne and I called them and the receptionist was so goddamn rude.
Oh yeah, I
And
actually
like
contacted another one. I contacted two other ones, and the reception staff were really disrespectful. They were really annoying.
yeah, and I think this is the again, this sort of like the regular job service providers. It's filled with people who don't actually care about you. They're just there for the job, and that's where like there's got to be some kind of vetting system to make sure that these people actually care. Maybe some kind of qualification in disability support or something. I don't know, just anything more than what they're doing
I would
now.
love to work on, honestly, like a co-design project to help with stuff like this and to help like restructure stuff.
Hell
Um,
yeah. Well, maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's the answer. It's like maybe we kind of have to. do it ourselves. Like maybe there needs to be a disability like founded and run, employment
Consult
service provider.
people with disabilities on things that impact people with
What?
disabilities. Oh
Nah,
my
you don't
God, this
say.
concept.
Look, I'd say the whole process of trying to keep disabled people in a job and supporting them when they're floating around, it's really funny. A lot of what I would suggest would also just apply to people who aren't disabled. Um,
Yeah.
and that's kind of an important thing to recognize is that when you look after one community of people, it does have a flow-on effect that inadvertently helps everyone else. There's a thing called I think I discussed this in episode 1. It's called the
Yep.
curb cut effect. Um, when you make accommodations for one particular group of people, it ends up, helping everyone. You know, um, like having elevators everywhere as an accessibility need. It's just so great because if you don't need an elevator and you're tired, it's like, oh, cool, I don't have to walk up the stairs. That's a very simplified example, but it sort of gets the point across. But for disabled people in particular, well, yeah, the DSP really does need to be improved, the whole system. It's very unclear, like what the eligibility criteria is for that because you'll have two people with the exact same circumstances. One gets approved, one gets denied. From what I've heard, most people get denied on their first attempt by default. Like they're meant to reject you to try and not get you to rely on the DSP. Even the maximum amount is pretty low, especially like relative to the rental crisis at the moment. And a lot of people might say, "Oh, we don't want to waste heaps of tax money on this thing." And it's like, well, A, who cares? Vulnerable people need it. And B, the issue was never wasting taxpayer funds. The issue with using taxpayer funds, I mean, I could go on a whole tangent about this, and I won't. But the issue with using taxpayer funds is that we don't allocate them correctly and we don't source them correctly. Like, look up how many large corporations in Australia pay little to no tax for their operations here. Look at the royalties we get from companies that extract natural resources from this country, and look how much we charge them compared to, say, Norway or Saudi Arabia, which have a massive amount of tax and royalty money that they can spend on public amenities and services. But in Australia, we don't do that. We just let rich people steamroll us and take all our resources and then let the people suffer. So it's like the whole myth of overpopulation. No, it's an issue of not allocating resources properly. But yeah, so the DSP could do with an increase. I think when someone has been diagnosed with a disability, they have proof of a disability and they aren't able to access the DSP, like, my God, at the very least, don't give them all those strict requirements that people on JobSeeker have and constantly threaten to take away their pay. Like, they've got enough to deal with. If they can prove that they have a disability, just make it that little less harder for them. Like, the whole JobSeeker and job service provider system is ridiculous. There are a lot of disabled people who really want to work, um, whether it's for extra income or purpose or whatever reason, but they can't because their capacity is limited by preventable circumstances. A lot of people, my capacity was extremely low for a very long time because I couldn't access health services that would have made an improvement to my capacity. These were things that were not funded by Medicare, or like the rebate was like $10 or something. Again, correct allocation of tax dollars and correct resourcing of tax dollars would make a huge difference in this because it took me 3 years to get the supports I needed to help me gain a bit of independence and start working again. It shouldn't have taken that long. There are a lot of people who are just like a lot of disabled people who are a few steps away from being able to accomplish what they want to job wise. They just need a little bit of boost to their capacity, but they can't access it. Anyway, um, I just want to talk a little bit about what we want to do in the future for our career. Like, you could bring up a dream job you have, the next job you'd like to get, a type of job, or like sort of broad career path. Take it away.
Okay. Well, I suppose this last year has really really helped me see that I do really enjoy working with youth with disabilities. I enjoy the co-design process. I actually enjoy admin work. I never thought I'd enjoy admin work, but I do.
She's a paper pusher.
I think I really want to continue working in this space. I want to continue working for people with disabilities and helping amplify voices, but in particular youth with disabilities, because it's really nice to see and really nice to be the person that I needed when I was at that age.
Mm.
I agree.
It's so empowering, and it's so nice to have that feeling of you making a difference in someone's world. But also my little sister's actually inspired me. She started her own little crochet business for her first job. She's got multiple disabilities herself, but she's also pushing me to do a lot more sewing. So I'm on my process of transitioning out of this job. I'm looking at the idea of maybe if I can't find something that I can do from home, maybe I start using my sewing skills again and make my own little toy business or
Hey,
altering
Stop, that's
business.
so cute.
I'm in the process of trying to see if I can make weighted stuffies.
I'll buy one. I'm not even
keep
joking.
us,
I would. Keep us
yeah,
in the loop.
legit. Keep us posted on that. I'd love to see where that goes.
I'm
Yeah.
making little dragons and seeing if I can make them weighted and heated.
That's so cute.
That's the kind of thing we can do. Use the skills that we've got.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, ultimately my job or career path, no matter what I do, I want to make a difference in someone's life, no matter how small. And I think that's been cemented over the last year, with, making all of these events and co-designing all of these things, is just I want to be able to make an impact, a tangible impact upon the lives of other people. And that's ultimately what I want to do. But on the side, I really want to keep doing my like creative projects. I really want to do, I uh am getting more into like performing arts and like acting and singing and doing all of these like fun little things. I've picked up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and I'm hoping to, wouldn't it be crazy if like one day I became a coach? Like that would be crazy. I'm not saying that's my
As
goal, but like, there's just all of these things that I'm like, this could get me somewhere one day. Um, yeah, like there's all of these like skills on the side that I'm like, obviously I have my main ambition, but all of these other like little side quests, I'm gonna pursue all of my little side quests. Yeah.
Yeah, as for myself, I've had the same goal since I was like a kid. I want to do two things and two things only. I want to make cool creative stuff, particularly storytelling, particularly visual storytelling, whether that's movies, comic books, video games. If I have the time, I'd like to try a little bit of all of them. And I also want to, make the world a better place as much as I can. And I'm hoping that those two goals can sort of intertwine. If I make a lot of money from being in showbiz, maybe I can, donate to people that don't get government funding for, I don't know, a domestic violence shelter or something like that. Like I can give scholarships to people who can't apply for them otherwise, I'm hoping I can use my influence if I become a well-known filmmaker or entertainer to sort of spotlight issues that don't get enough attention and bring them to the world's eyes, showbiz and helping people out.
I'll be
Is
there at
what I'd
every
like to do.
premiere. I'll be there.
oh yes, we must get invites to all of them.
We better.
Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, look, that's a wrap. The disabled employee has come to an end. I hope that anyone who's listened to this has gotten something out of it. If you're a disabled person, I hope that, we've provided like a safe and comfortable environment for you to engage in. I hope, there's been some useful advice passed along. If you're not disabled, I'm hoping that you've learned some important things about other people in your community. And if you're an employer, well, we've given you an exhaustive list of things to not do. So hopefully that can be applied well. So thank you for listening. If you have listened to all of these episodes, thank you. It's our first time doing a podcast.
It is Sada's first podcast and we did it. The best time. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it's been so fun going through this journey, putting this all together, and we've had an amazing time traversing all of the steps of going through a job search and getting a job and then being in a job and then getting out of a job and all of these things. I mean, it's a whole process, and sometimes it appears cyclical, but there's, that's just it goes on. Life goes on. And yeah, I'm echoing what you said, Dureece, but if you're a disabled person, and especially if you're a young person with a disability looking for a job right now, I mean, put yourself out there. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And even if you end up in a position where it's not an ideal situation for you, maybe it's not an ideal job, you will still walk out of that being someone who is wholly different to who you were walking in. You will learn things and you will get more experiences. And you have to be the person to push yourself through all of this and reaching out to other people, reaching out to employers. You can do that. You are a boss. Be the boss of your own life. You can do it.
That's exactly right. Like, I hope that anyone listening has realized that they're not alone. We, as young people with disabilities, we went through it. We thought we were alone. We didn't always know that there was other people like us struggling in the ways that we did. I know I didn't until I met this really cool group.
Who? Sorry.
Yeah.
Who? Mm-mm.
Definitely not these two that I'm on the podcast with. But it's been amazing and to learn that for hours. But it's really late in our lives that we've learned that.
Exactly. And I mean, like, we're just three people on a podcast doing our thing, connecting with each other, which means, find your other group of three people or four people or five people or two people or whatever many people. There will be other people who can connect with you, and if we felt like we couldn't find a space, and we did, and so can you.
Don't forget to value your skill set. So even if it's
everything in it,
every little bit, like I didn't know that I could potentially use my sewing skills until my partner goes, you know how much people charge for you to fix that pillow that you fixed for my mum? I'm like, oh. He's like, you could be a seamstress. I'm like, yeah, no. But like, then I looked into it and then I started repairing teddy bears. Those little tiny things, or my drawing, or don't forget to look at that stuff and know that someone will see the value in it. There's any little thing that you can do, it's valuable, and your work life doesn't mean that that's your contribution to society. You are your contribution to society, and that's enough.
God damn, I want to get that on a t-shirt.
My support worker has just texted me saying that he's here, so I've got to dip out. But you guys, it's been so fun. It's been so fun.
You know what? It's a shame we don't have a catchphrase. I was hoping to go out with something like 1, 2, 3, insert catchphrase here, but we don't have one. Anyone want to shoot, like, off the bat? Anyone got something?
You are your contribution to society. Reignite your spark, something like that. I know we had so many things. We had so many good ones.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. And that's the disabled employee. That's it.
We have been 3 disabled employees.
We have been.
We have been.
Thank you all for listening. We've loved just rambling to the universe.
Now we're not like the disabled employees. It's just like the disabled blank.
Yeah.
The disabled blank.
The disabled.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Good luck, disabled blanks.
Goodbye. Good luck. Yes.
All right. Goodbye, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
This podcast was brought to you by the Dream Network, a program that bridges the gap between disabled job seekers and employers, and aims to help disabled youth build the skills and confidence they need to enter the workforce. The Dream Network is a program run by Children and Young People with Disability Australia, also known as CIDA,